John DiBiase. Welcome to Disabilities Journal. We've been doing a series on disabilities that are not necessarily looked at as disabilities. You can't see somebody with the disabilities we've been talking about. We're doing a show on Crohn's disease, one on dementia, and this show is on mental illness. Mental illness is one of those disabilities that you don't always see. You don't necessarily recognize somebody with a mental illness. And I have with me two executive directors, Larry Grubler, the executive director of Transitional Services in Whitestone, and Yolando Rabano-Gross, the executive director of Options for Community Living in Ronkonkoma, New York. Both of my guests I know for quite some time, and I'm very happy to have them with us, and they're both experts in the field. And let's talk about the stigma. Let's talk about the stigma of a mental illness, and you could pick any mental illness at all, and you don't always see somebody and say, gee, that guy has
mental illness. Yeah, you wouldn't know.
That guy has.
And I think you have to start with the statistics that 1 in 4 people have a psychiatric disability. You start there, and there's probably 10 people in a room, and there's somebody in that room that has a psychiatric disability, and you would never know. And that's probably one of the hardest parts of our job from a fundraising perspective, because it's not like a child in a wheelchair or a puppy that's damaged. You could be looking at me, and I might have schizophrenia, and you might not know. And so it's a hard sell, because the world looks at people like me and say, if I had schizophrenia, well, why aren't you working? Why are you on public benefits? So there's a whole host of stigmatizing issues with that. It's really hard to work and get your life organized if you're hearing voices, if you're seeing things. It's really difficult.
I think that the world needs to kind of change the face of what they see in terms of individuals with mental health issues. There's a perception, of that person that's outside of the train station with kind of the cardboard sign. And while that is certainly a face of mental health, it's not the face. We have people that, just like the rest of us, we have people that have college educations and work and families. There's that piece of it that people just don't understand. And like Larry said, I just said to somebody the other day, if you walked up and down your block, the numbers bear out. You would find someone that was on either a medication for depression or anxiety or something else. But you wouldn't know that because they're just living in their home. Yet if someone is associated with one of our agencies, all of a sudden people know.
Absolutely. And I have two funny stories with that. One of them is that when I would do community education, I would do a slideshow. And I would show the apartment complex where some of our clients live amongst 400 other people. And I was doing something in Queens, and one of the people in the audience said, there can't be anybody that has a mental illness living in that building. I live in that building. Like, well, wait, I can't tell you who it is, but we do have people. And the other funny story I just totally blanked out on, but it just exists all over.
Well, for a long time, mental illness was the subject of ridicule and even comedy movies. When I was doing my master's degree, we saw One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. And after the class, I said to the professor, I got to tell you, when I saw this in college, of course, I did my master's degree when I was a full-grown adult, sort of. I said, when I saw this in college with my friends, we laughed hysterically. I said, it isn't funny. So there's also that could add to it. That
adds to it, and I did remember my second funny story. I was with a politician. We were meeting in her office. She will remain nameless. And she said, well, I'm not really interested in the topic of mental illness because there are no people with mental illness in my district. I carry with me the zip codes.
Sorry.
No,
Yeah.
I carry with me the zip codes of all of our consumers and where they live and where they're getting services. And I said, no, I have all your zip codes right here. And there's 32 people that are in my services. I can't tell you who they are, but that are in my services that live in your district. And was shocked that she actually said that. I think part of the stigma, there is a stigma, but part of what we're responsible for doing is educating the community on what mental illness is, that it is all around us. And there's also a very interesting part about the generational difference. I think people my age, your age, you're much younger, so we didn't talk about it when we were younger. You know, it just wasn't something that we were talking about. The kids nowadays, they suffer from anxiety, and they'll tell you right up front.
Yep.
I'm anxious. I had somebody over to our house for dinner, and he was standing. And I was like, well, why are you standing? And he said, because I'm just too anxious to sit. I can't handle it. I said, no problem, just stand. But I would never have done that at a 20-year-old.
No, you would have sat down and maybe not talked to anybody,
suffered through it.
Yeah.
So there are some changes
Or had an
that I'm
extra
seeing.
drink more than you should
Or
have.
exactly.
To
Absolutely.
self-medicate.
Do self-medicate. That's which is exactly what our clients do when they're not treated with the correct medications to help them.
Now, you both know that I had a really bad time during last spring. I was hospitalized for 4 months. I had terrible dreams. And when I came home, I was still having these terrible dreams, and I would have flashbacks. Very similar to, I found out, flashbacks to
Like a PTSD kind of.
Yeah.
PTSD, right? Well, I called a psychologist, and I said, I need to talk about this. I think part of it is people being afraid to say, gee, I've got a problem, let me confront it, let's see if I can fix it.
The fear is part of it. The access is part of it. I mean, look, take you. You went through a horrific time, but it was a point in time. You are educated. You have resources. You have a strong support system in family and friends. You have a roof over your head at all times. You have an income. Most of our people, or a good majority of our people, don't have many or all of those things. And, you know, for you to be able to pick up a phone with your insurance and with your wife supporting you and with your education behind you and work your way through a system, you know, you were able to do that. A lot of the people that we assist need us and the people that work for us to help them through that system.
I think that terrifies me, to know that there are people that don't have the access to the services that they need.
They don't.
Even if they want them.
They don't. And that's really unfortunate. It's inhumane.
Which
Actually,
brings us to some of the other challenges that you guys faced in the field. Funding. How do you get? You just talked about going to a member of the legislature and being told, "I don't need this." You know,
there's no mentally ill people.
I'm not interested in it.
It's a constant challenge. Something that businesses don't necessarily run on contracts. We run on contracts. We get money to provide services. You can hire a staff based upon what they're giving you in those contracts. If you're not getting the money and you're not bringing the money in, you can't pay high salaries. So you have to do fundraising, and you're constantly either negotiating out contracts or you're begging for money. It's one of those, one of the two.
And we live and work in expensive areas of New York. We're trying to keep I don't necessarily say kids, but the kids on Long Island, in the city.
Absolutely.
We're trying to keep them here and retain them for the next generation. But, you know, let's be fair. If we can't pay someone coming out of college with some student loan debt a working wage that they can go work in retail or wherever else and get the same thing and not have to manage situations and take a lot of responsibility for a 22, 23-year-old kid coming out of college with a social work degree or a psych degree and, you know, a bachelor's level person. And now they need to learn medication management and ADL. It's a whole different level of skills. And we need to be able to pay these kids so that they can work their way up and become that next generation for when all of us retire.
That's true. You know, I do every orientation with staff. It's once a month. And I meet with them. And I tell them, I started out as a counselor.
Me too.
I started out as $10,000 a year People think I just walked into this job.
Right, you became- yeah.
I became the CEO less,
Yep.
15 years ago.
They liked
I've
my
been doing
clothes.
this for
Yeah.
42 years, but I started out as a counselor in a day treatment program.
Yeah.
And worked, and so there's lots of opportunities in the mental health field, but you have to be willing to stick with it. Most of my staff, I would say, the majority have 2 or 3 jobs.
Yeah.
Which is really,
Yeah.
it's really scary because you can't do one job really properly or dedicate yourself to the one job, especially if it's a public service job, a service-oriented job where you need to be on your toes. And if I'm tired, I'm not going to do it properly.
And our staff work with some pretty serious situations. I mean, I have some heroic staff. I mean, we are the family for a lot of these people. We are there. I can tell you that a couple months ago, 2 staff members and I had the privilege of letting someone pass with some dignity, and we were the ones, or I was the one that had to say, let him go. He was a long-term staff, but we become that support system to a lot of the individuals we serve. So then to say, okay, the 2 staff that were with me, they went through that for the day, and then now go work a second job. I mean, we need to allow them some work-life balance if they're managing these kind of situations.
And we try. It's hard. It's really hard for them. I had one that sat with a woman for 26 hours while she was having a baby.
Yep.
There was nobody else there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the case manager, that's what she did. No, never questioned it. Didn't ask to be paid.
Nope.
Didn't ask for overtime. That was what she did.
This is what we do.
It's what
This is what we do.
And now, of course, Yolanda and I worked in the DD field, which is a bit different. And one Saturday morning, I got a call that there was an individual who was in a hospital and was dying. And I said, okay, I'm on my way.
On my way.
And I got there, and it was actually somebody who I really knew. You know, like we
Right,
know
yeah.
people, and then there's really know.
No,
Yeah.
And I didn't put it together until I saw the family, and I was like, oh, wow, I'm glad I'm here with you guys. Here, I said that. You know, they were glad that I was there with them. There's a certain fulfillment to this, but when I got home, it was like, leave me alone. I really don't want to do anything today. Just leave me alone. It's very draining. As fulfilling as it is, it's draining. When you see somebody have a success, you're like,
Awesome.
wow.
Wow.
It's
Yes,
awesome.
It is awesome. And there are, that's the
are.
piece that we need to tell people. There are a lot of successes. People go on and get an education. They go out and get a job. They go on and have a family.
Right.
So there are a lot of successes. I think one of the reasons I like all the programs that we run in the transitional model is just like you or I, where we may need more support at any given point in our life. And as Yolanda was talking before, staff are there for that additional support if they need it.
Right.
And then you can go back out and do whatever you were doing. So
In the DD field, and I'm sorry to keep going back to that because that's
That's
what
what
I
That's
know.
your frame of reference.
This time of year was, I called it my exciting time of the year because I got to go to Albany once a week.
Same with us.
My asks were different than your asks, or similar to your asks, or the same as your asks.
Very similar.
ahead, let's talk- let's-
Having lived both worlds,
Yeah.
very similar. It's, I like to go up with the guys, as I refer to them, or our individuals. They bring a very different perspective.
Absolutely.
When you're sitting in front of a legislator, and I can say to them, well, we need this funding, and we need the budget to be pushed forward because of X, Y, and Z. Well, they can look at me, and they could also say, well, Yolanda, you have a job to keep, which is true. But I sit there with someone, and I'm always amazed at, and no offense, because I'm sure we have some very enlightened legislators, but I'm amazed at the ones who look at the clients and say, do you vote? Or you're a
Yes.
veteran? Or you have a job?
right.
And all of a sudden, this whole group of constituents becomes very real to them. Because somehow they
Because
don't...
they stop being bodies and they stop being
Correct.
constituents.
Right.
Right. The other piece that's different, that I've always felt was different in the developmental disability field compared to the mental health field, is that the programs in the developmental disabilities were funded to a greater extent than the mental health. And I think there's a psych reason for that. A child is not, it's not anybody's fault when that child is developmentally disabled. It's the mother or father's fault. It's not. I want to make that clear.
Right.
It's not when somebody's mentally ill. So it's really, that's going back to the stigma, kind of the funding followed that a little bit. Because they can then blame, well, this is your child, you should take care of them.
That's exactly where I wanted to go with this, because the funding stream needs to be bolstered in the MH.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yes.
maybe in the next 10 minutes or so, we could talk a little bit about what we have to do to get that funding bolstered. You've already gone upstate. The budget, it looks like it's going to be later this year than it was last year. So maybe you've got a shot to get more money. Maybe you got a shot to get cut more.
Well, the news came out, I think it was yesterday or the day before. Was it yesterday?
Yesterday.
Yesterday that the governor had proposed an 8.5% COLA for the staff. I think that's the largest COLA that I've ever heard of.
Yeah.
In my 42-year career.
I shouldn't have retired. I should have stayed.
In my 42-year career, that is the largest. I think Governor Hochul, not to just give her a plug, but I think she is putting money into the mental health field. She's putting money to develop new beds. We have a wonderful commissioner of mental health who really does advocate for all of us, Commissioner Sullivan. She was a provider. She knows what's going on. So I think that team is really working. I don't know where the money's coming from, but I don't really care. If they fund it, it doesn't matter. But yes.
You're going to raise your taxes 8%.
I'm sure it's got to come from somewhere.
Got to come from somewhere.
But yeah, this is a problem. This is not only a problem for the executives, even though executives, I know that our salary was more than the guys in the field. We also bear a lot more responsibility.
And we have a 24/7 responsibility.
We do.
Indeed. My friends kind of laugh. The phone's always on. It's always with me. It's by my head at night. I take it on vacation. We have people at the other end of our phones. I'm not working at the mall. Things don't shut. We run 24-hour residences, and while we have staff that's responsible 24/7, in the end, God forbid that there's really something, they need to be able to get to us.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
There is that level of responsibility that comes with it.
There are people who we need to call, maybe on the state level. That Saturday afternoon, this woman was dying. They were going to disconnect her life support, and it was like, gee, am I allowed to do this? So I had to call somebody and say, this is what's going on. Can I do this without being shut down forever? The folks on the ground, the folks in the buildings, in the day programs, in the houses, that 8.5% means a lot to them. That means the difference probably.
Those are life-changing numbers.
Yeah, that is.
Absolutely.
And I think what the world doesn't know, and I joke with a lot of my contemporaries outside of this world, the last 3 years, when everybody got to work from their couch, we didn't, and our staff didn't. So when I hear people say, well, I'm going back to work once a month, now I'm like, well, okay, good for you. But, we have residential programs where we were putting people into programs. They had to be there at their own risk, at the risk of their families. So we stood behind them, and we were in person also. It's a very different world when you have residential programs, where it doesn't shut, and you can't do it virtually. We tweak, we adjust. The community-based programs, we were able to kind of flex. But those programs need people.
Remained open.
Yep.
And they were
people the whole
supervised.
time.
Yeah.
Yep, absolutely.
I said to Sheila, my wife, after I retired, she said, you retired at the right time. I said, no, I retired at the wrong time. I said, I would have needed to be there. And she said, yeah, you would have gotten COVID and died. I said, probably, but because I have other health issues that would have, but I think that we love what we do. I know I loved what I did. I loved the people that we served. I even kind of almost liked the people that worked. No, I did like the people that worked for me.
You wouldn't have done it so long if you didn't love it.
Exactly.
As I said, I'm doing this 42 years. If I didn't love it, it's not a job. It's a part of my life. if that makes the
it becomes part of
and
your life.
I have one thing that I really regret doing during the pandemic. At the very beginning, I was delivering PPE to the houses because I didn't have staff to do this. So I was out one of the homes, and one of the consumers at one of the residences, we do run a home for people who have a psychiatric disability and a developmental disability. So she's outside and she says, Larry, I want to go back to program. I want to go back to the world. I want to go. I said, don't worry about it. It's going to be a couple of days.
Yeah.
It's only, who knew?
Who knew it was going to be 2 years?
I keep thinking and I did call her and I said, I had no clue that this was going to go on and on and on and on. But I'll never forget that.
Huh? So we've got about 8 minutes to go. What would you say to your legislators, about what you do, what you need, and why you need it? I know I'm putting you on the spot.
No, yeah. It's really hard. The reason I don't go to Albany as much, and I do it on a local level, I meet with the politicians, and I do tours on Tuesdays. I do Tuesday tours. So you want to take a tour of my program? Most people don't get what we do. They don't get until they see it. And they can see it and touch it and feel it. Some of my homes are on the grounds of Creedmoor Psychiatric Center. They'll walk out of their car and say, what is going on here? All these buildings are vacant. And the same thing's happening out at Pilgrim. Mm-hmm. Well, why can't we house people here? Why don't you do something about this? I would do something about it if I had the money to do something about it. We could probably house another. I don't think it should all be for people who have a psychiatric disability. That's not what I'm saying. I don't want to create that type of environment. There's people that need a low and moderate income, that have low and moderate incomes, that need the housing. Young families that are just starting out. I worry for the young families that are starting out in New York City. On the way here, I was listening to the radio, and they said that if you earn $100,000, you're probably living paycheck to paycheck in New York City.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy, and most of my staff don't even earn anywhere near that. So can you imagine? So really giving the tours and doing the education is what I find to be extremely important. And then they know where their money's going.
I think I would tell people to ask the questions. I know neither one of us and most of our contemporaries will never shy away from a phone call or, I don't understand this, or let me see this, or explain it. Instead of, we have a lot of years of assumptions out there and a lot of years of false information. And I had a high school student with me a couple of years ago. One of the local high schools, which is great, has their kids do a service program as a graduation requirement. And I took him through the programs, and he was a 17-year-old kid from a nice neighborhood who had never been in a residence, talking to one of our clients about the kid was in the volunteer fire department. This gentleman had been in the volunteer fire department. They talked for a good half hour, really connected. We get in the car, and he says to me, "Now, there's nothing wrong with that man, Yolanda." And I said to him, "But that's what I want you to see. It's not what you think in your head. You need to kind of change the narrative and change the face. So if you're not sure or you don't know, ask. We'll take you. We'll tour you. We'll introduce you.
Right.
But make your decisions, and your funding decisions in particular, and your donation decisions to the general public out there, based on what you know and not what you don't know, or what you're assuming or what you think you know."
Because a lot of what we think we know is false.
Correct.
Okay? We have skewed ideas of people in general. When I came to the DD field, I had no idea what I was going to encounter. I was like, okay, I took this job. Jeannie Parisi hired me, and I took this job, and this is my first day, and
now what?
I fell in love. I truly fell in love. I said, these guys, this is wonderful. I'm glad to be here. What can I do? What can I do more? How do I learn to do what I need to do more?
You have to be in love. There is no lukewarm in any kind of disability services.
Yep.
Because no one on their best or worst day ever woke up and said, "I want to live in a residence." No one ever says that. And I can teach any kid walking in the door how to write a note, what's a billable visit. What I can't teach is empathy. I can't teach respect and how to treat someone with dignity. And the fact that you work in their home, not the other way around.
Right.
That I can't teach. But you can't be lukewarm. I say it all the time.
That's a very important thing that you just said. We work in their home. They don't live where we work.
Correct.
That's a really important. It's very
important.
Funny nuance to that. Not funny, but
Yeah.
there's the nuance. But that's a really important thing. This is where I live.
I'll tell you quick. I had a young person, who's a staff person, the other day who said to me, "Such and such is having a bad day," and I said, "Look, take it back a little bit." If the person is similar in age to me, I said, "If you took me, you put me in a residence with 9 strangers, 3 staff always working and looking over me. I want to just sit on the couch and binge watch Netflix, but I can't because I have to work a goal. I have to be productive. You might have an off day also." So keep it in the perspective of the person and, where they're coming from. They don't, need to consider that.
Yeah. That all of your days aren't perfect.
Right.
No,
and it's okay
neither
to have
the
a bad
consumer's
day.
day is going to be perfect either. They're human beings. They're going to have their ups and downs as well.
We got about a minute and a half to go. What do you want to tell people? And you can tell people, you can give them your address and say, we need donations, and I'm very serious, because we're going to put those tags at the end of the show. But you can say that. You can say, be kind to people, because you don't even know what their story is, no matter who they are.
I would say all of that. I mean, sure.
Well, go ahead and say it.
We're at www.optionscl.org is the website for Options for Community Living, and the phone is 631-361-9020. What I would say is, you're walking down the street and you catch someone's eye, nod, smile, say hello, because a kind word or a gesture, you don't know where someone is at that day. And that may be the thing that changes the path they choose that day. So I know we take a lot of this tunnel vision, don't look, don't just keep walking forward, but don't. Make eye contact with people. Say hello. Say, how's your day going? Even if it's a stranger in the street. That small act of kindness may change what they choose to do that day, and it may change their life.
Okay, Yolanda used all of it. No, go ahead.
It's Transitional Services for New York. It's www.tsiny.org. The telephone number is 718-746-6647. You can use my extension 7011. Any questions, I can put you in touch with the correct person. And I agree, if we did anything today, was to help break the stigma of mental illness. And I'm proud that we can do that. And I know people my age, that most of the guys that are not in the not-for-profit world are ready to retire. They can't wait to get out of work. I can't wait to go to work.
Absolutely.
I want to thank both of you for coming today. I know that you've got busy schedules. I know you're off to other meetings after this. And so thank you very much. And I'm sure that we'll see each other very soon.
Thanks again.
Thank you.
Someplace else. Okay? Thank you.